It's a gamble that we're just gonna have to take. We'll fire back up when the sun decides that it's summertime and make the best use of everybody that we free up.
Everyone thought Parker Schnabel was running out of time and ground in the Yukon. He needed a new plan, a new frontier. He found it on a forgotten Alaskan island with a dark past and a collapsed mine that had swallowed prospectors whole.
Yeah, man.
Wow, this is crazy. There's 500 feet of tunnel here. It was all done by hand. This is their bracing. Right.
What he found inside wasn't just gold, it was an $84 million jackpot that would rewrite gold rush history forever. The gamble of a young king. The story of Parker Schnabel's incredible climb to the top of the gold mining world is the stuff of modern legend. It all kicked off with a massive gamble. When he was just a teenager, he made the gutsy choice to take over the mining operation from his grandfather, the legendary John Schnabel, in the brutal, unforgiving lands of the North.
You find anything?
What do you think, Grandpa?
Oh my! Ooh, that is beautiful.
Here's another one. Isn't that awesome?
I won't be able to sleep.
This wasn't some summer job, it was a life-altering leap into a high-stakes world. Parker immediately proved he was dead serious. He sank $100,000 of his own college fund into a new patch of ground he believed was loaded with gold. But was it? What people don't always grasp is the crushing weight of pressure he was under. He wasn't just digging for a few nuggets, he was aiming for a gigantic target in the famed Klondike region. To pull this off, he knew he had to be smarter and faster than everyone else. In a move that seemed crazy for a kid his age, he made a daring strategic choice. He split his crew of greenhorns into two completely separate teams. This decision would change the course of his entire season. The first group became the Wolf Cut crew. Their mission was exploration. They were sent to virgin ground, tasked with digging 30 feet straight down through the frozen earth. Their job was to strip away the icy layers, exposing the ground to the sun so it could thaw for the wash plant.
It's called permafrost for a reason, right? Because it's permanently frozen. I mean, it would help us a lot if it was more than like 35 degrees for at least like 4 hours.
We need some warm weather. Trying to keep up with stripping and sluicing at the same time.
And that's the problem, is that we're using a lot of our manpower right now to just try to keep the plant fed.
You see, mining in the Yukon is a frantic race against the seasons. If the ground stays frozen, the gold stays locked away. The Wolf Cut crew was hunting for huge deposits of high-grade gold, but they knew it was a long and expensive game. They were burning through cash every single day just to prepare the land, with zero gold coming in to show for it. The second group, the Drift Cut crew, was led by his trusted foreman. Their mission was the exact opposite. They had no time to wait. They needed to find a lot of gold, and they needed to find it now to keep the entire operation from going bankrupt. They scoured every single inch of their claim, looking for the smallest hint of color in the dirt, any promising layer of gravel that could lead to the mother lode. As the weeks bled into a month, both teams were working around the clock. Parker's huge Alaskan gamble had become a full-blown war against time, and the entire world was watching to see if the kid could actually do it. But even as the gold started to trickle in from the Klondike, Parker knew it wasn't enough.
But for the hours it ran, I think it did well.
Well, it's a good thing you got sulfur, because without that, where would have Bob gone?
The ground was getting thinner, the easy gold was gone, and the future of his entire operation hung by a thread. He needed a new frontier, a place so rich it would secure his legacy for decades. His eyes turned north toward the wild, untamed coast of Alaska, and a place whispered about only in hushed tones by old-timers, a cursed island with a legendary secret. Parker set his sights on a place that didn't appear on most modern maps, a remote, fog-shrouded island known to the local Tlingit people as Castine, which translates to the Weeping Rock. To prospectors, it had a different name, Spectre Island. The island had a dark and tragic history. During the original Klondike Gold Rush over a century ago, a group of ambitious miners had established a large operation there, convinced they had found the source of all the Yukon's gold. They built a massive mine shaft burrowing deep into the island's rocky heart.
For me, the big driver of this is really trying to find the next spot to bring a big operation in. It is about showing that, okay, there's, another 10 or 20 or 30 or whatever thousand ounces to do here.
For a brief time, the stories say they were pulling out nuggets the size of fists. They were hitting it richer than anyone could imagine. Then disaster struck. During a brutal winter storm, the main tunnel system, weakened by greedy and reckless digging, collapsed. The entire mine folded in on itself, entombing the miners and their immense treasure forever. Since that day, Spectre Island has been considered cursed ground. Several attempts were made in the decades that followed to reopen the mine, but each one ended in failure and tragedy. Equipment mysteriously failed, freak accidents plagued the crews, and some prospectors simply vanished into the island's perpetual mist, never to be seen again. This was the insane gamble Parker Schnabel was about to take. While his rivals were fighting over the scraps left in the Yukon, Parker was secretly leasing the mining rights to the entirety of Spectre Island. His crew thought he was crazy. His foreman Mitch argued that it was an impossible mission, throwing good money after a ghost story.
It's a gamble that we're just going to have to take. We'll fire back up when the sun decides that it's summertime and make the best use of everybody that we free up.
But Parker had a hunch he couldn't shake. He believed the old legends were true and that the $84 million jackpot was not a myth. He was convinced that with modern technology and a determined crew, he could succeed where everyone else had failed. He poured millions into the new venture before a single shovel hit the ground. Barges transported his entire operation, the excavators, the bulldozers, and his two massive wash plants, Big Red and Slucifer, across the treacherous Alaskan waters. Setting up camp on the gloomy, silent island was an eerie experience. The ruins of the original miners' camp were still there, half swallowed by moss and twisted trees. It was a constant reminder of the failure and death that haunted the very ground they stood on. Parker wasn't just mining for gold, he was wrestling with the ghosts of the past. The plan was as bold as it was dangerous. Instead of trying to re-excavate the original, unstable mine entrance, they would use their heavy machinery to carve a new path down from the surface.
We're in a situation where there's a ton of work and unrealistic expectations from a boss that likes to have unrealistic expectations.
Aiming to intersect the deep, collapsed tunnels where the legendary treasure was supposedly buried. It was a project of immense scale and unbelievable risk. The ghosts of Spectre Island were watching, and Parker was about to find out if they would welcome him or swallow him whole. With the operation set up on the haunted shores of Spectre Island, Parker's grand vision quickly slammed into a brutal reality. The island seemed to fight them at every turn. Almost immediately, their equipment, which had survived years in the Yukon, began to break down in bizarre and catastrophic ways. Big Red, their primary wash plant, became their biggest enemy. A critical screen inside the machine tore, a problem they had faced before, but this time it felt different. The tear allowed huge, jagged rocks from the island's notoriously hard ground to jam the works. The crew was forced to shut down the entire plant again and again. The jams were not just slowing them down, they were a constant danger. Every time the machine clogged, they risked losing fine gold that was being washed away with the oversized rocks. Mitch had to climb into the guts of the massive machine himself, a tough and dangerous job to replace the giant heavy screen. They fixed it, but the challenges kept coming.
You've got to be kidding me. This always happens. Come on. Now we're getting somewhere.
They soon discovered that the unique sharp-edged rock on the island was also blocking the water flow in the sluice boxes, preventing the gold from settling properly. It was as if the island itself was actively working against them. The mood of the crew began to sour. They were isolated, surrounded by dense fog and the unsettling silence of the island broken only by the groan of dying machinery. The younger crew members, like Evan, grew visibly spooked, telling stories of strange noises at night and tools going missing. The physical and psychological toll was immense. They were burning through thousands of dollars a day in fuel and repairs with almost no gold to show for it.
This wash plant, it's got a lot more sluice run width, and so that's what should increase our yardage and help us get through all of the pay here at Dominion and the money pit that we have to do. It's a bit of a gamble going with something that's untested late in the season, but we'll roll those dice.
Parker was feeling the pressure mount. He drove relentlessly between the dig site and the wash plant, pushing his exhausted team and trying to solve 1,000 problems at once. The dream of a massive jackpot was fading into a nightmare of debt and failure. Just when it seemed like the Spectre Island curse was real and their mission was doomed, a small breakthrough occurred. After weeks of grinding, frustrating work, they finally hit a patch of decent pay dirt. It wasn't the mother lode, but it was something. The first cleanup from the newly repaired Big Red yielded 51.6 ounces of gold, worth around $90,000. Shortly after Slucifer, their other plant, produced an incredible 210 ounces. The crew's spirits lifted. Maybe the curse could be broken after all. This small victory was just the fuel they needed to push harder, to dig deeper into the weeping rock of the island.
And it's nice to finally be on some ground and be finding some gold and have a good crew. A lot's gone into this, and it's really cool to see it working out.
What they didn't know was that they were inching closer to a discovery that would change their lives forever. The Golden Collapse. The taste of success, however small, renewed the crew's determination. They ran the wash plants 24 hours a day, tearing into the side of the mountain with a newfound frenzy. Parker was obsessed, convinced they were on the edge of the old collapsed mine system. He pushed the excavators to dig deeper and faster than was probably safe, ignoring the groans of the stressed machinery and the worried looks from his crew. The pay dirt was getting richer by the foot, but it still wasn't the legendary treasure he was hunting for. Then it happened. Out of nowhere, on a damp, foggy afternoon, the ground gave way. An excavator operator, pushing to clear a massive boulder, dug its bucket just a little too deep. There was a terrifying grinding roar as a huge section of the mountainside sheared away. The crew watched in horror as tons of rock and earth cascaded down, creating a massive landslide that completely buried their primary dig site. For a few heart-stopping moments, everyone feared the worst. After the dust settled and a frantic head count confirmed everyone was safe, despair began to sink in. Their best pay dirt was now under 100 feet of rubble. The gamble had failed, the island had won. But as Parker stood staring at the wreckage, he noticed something strange. The landslide hadn't just been a disaster, it had been an act of geological surgery. It had sliced open the mountain, exposing a dark, gaping hole that hadn't been there before, a man-made tunnel, reinforced with ancient, rotting timbers. They had found it.
Yeah, man.
Wow, this is crazy. There's 500 feet of tunnel here. It was all done by hand. This is their bracing. Right.
The landslide had accidentally blasted open an entrance to the lost, collapsed mine of Spectre Island. Armed with powerful lights and safety gear, Parker and Mitch were the first to venture inside. The air was stale, thick with the smell of damp earth and a century of silence. What they saw made them stop in their tracks. The tunnel opened into a large cavern and it was glittering from floor to ceiling. The original miners in their final moments had clearly hit the source. It wasn't a vein of gold, it was the vein itself. Thick bands of pure gold ran through the quartz walls like yellow lightning. The floor was littered with thousands of nuggets, washed loose over the decades by seeping groundwater. Piled against one wall were dozens of rotting canvas bags, split open and spilling mountains of gold dust onto the cavern floor. It was a sight no miner had ever seen. It was the legend made real. They hadn't just found a pay streak, they had found a king's ransom, a buried treasure of unimaginable value. A quick, conservative estimate on the spot left them speechless. There wasn't just a few $1 million worth of gold in that cavern. There was more like $84 million. Parker Schnabel hadn't just hit the mother lode, he had found the heart of the mountain.
Good ground makes everything else just a minor detail. I will mine in if the ground's good.
But with this incredible discovery came an even bigger problem: how to get it out and how to keep it a secret. The discovery of the $84 million cavern changed everything. The mood on Spectre Island shifted from one of desperate hope to one of paranoid secrecy. Parker immediately made a decision that sent shockwaves through the mining community. He completely locked down the island. No one was allowed on and no one was allowed off without his direct permission. He cut off satellite communications for all but essential reports, plunging the operation into a media blackout. The official story was that they had hit a solid but unspectacular pay streak and needed to focus without distractions. The truth was far more complex. Getting the $84 million in gold out was a logistical nightmare. It wasn't pay dirt that could be run through a wash plant, it was a mix of giant quartz veins, laced with gold, loose nuggets, and fine dust. They had to carefully extract it by hand and with specialized equipment, a slow and painstaking process. All the while, the threat of another collapse loomed over them.
It's a huge accomplishment, you know, and it took everybody here. I just really want to thank you guys for the effort that you've put out.
This is where the story gets even stranger, feeding the wildest fan theories that had always surrounded the show. The sheer volume of the gold was a problem. If word got out, they would instantly become a target for rival miners, corporate vultures, and even more dangerous criminals. The $84 million find was too big, too dramatic to be believed. According to whispers from the fan community, this is where the idea of lost gold comes into play on a scale never before imagined. Parker Schnabel secured the $84 million fortune, but at what cost to the truth? If you like this story, smash that like button, subscribe, and tell us in the comments. Is it truly a success if you have to lie about its size?